It wasn't as long as we had thought it might go on. Police were definitely prepared as the Hells Angels and their associates rolled into Toronto today. Now, while it was loud at times, it was also peaceful as these outlaw bikers congregated here at this unofficial clubhouse for the Toronto's Hells Angels.
They were rebels on two wheels, outlaws who live by their own code. But what happens when a motorcycle club becomes a criminal empire? This is the untold story of how the Hells Angels took over a city and the chaos they left behind. Welcome to Silent Witness, where we dive deep into the darkest corners of true crime. Today we're peeling back the leather and chrome to reveal the Hells Angels Motorcycle Club, a group that went from a band of misfits to one of the most feared criminal organizations in the world. In this documentary, we'll uncover how they seized control of a city, their brutal tactics, and the law enforcement battles to bring them down. Buckle up, because this ride is about to get wild. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more gritty true crime stories. Origins of the Hells Angels. The Hells Angels were born in 1948 in San Bernardino, California, founded by disillusioned World War II veterans, including a former pilot from the Hells Angels Squadron. These men, hardened by war, craved freedom, rebellion, and the open road. They called themselves one-percenters, proudly rejecting the notion that 99% of bikers were law-abiding citizens. Initially, the club was a brotherhood of misfits united by their love for motorcycles and defiance of societal norms. But in the 1960s, the Hells Angels began to transform, seizing opportunities that would redefine their legacy. The 1960s counterculture and drug boom provided the perfect storm. The Angels, already steeped in a rebellious ethos, saw an opening. What started as a hobby, selling drugs, quickly became their livelihood. Marijuana, LSD, and later methamphetamine flowed through their networks, fueled by the era's demand for escapism. The club's reputation for violence and fearlessness made them untouchable in many circles, allowing them to dominate local drug markets with ease. By the 1970s, the Hells Angels had professionalized. No longer just a rowdy club, they operated as a structured, disciplined organization. Canadian journalist Julian Schur likened them to the McDonald's of organized crime for their global reach and ruthless efficiency. Their enterprises expanded beyond drugs to include extortion, prostitution, and arms trafficking. The Angels established chapters across the US, Canada, Europe, and beyond, each tightly controlled by a strict hierarchy. One city, Riverton, a fictional name for this narrative, became ground zero for their takeover. Riverton, a mid-sized industrial hub with a crumbling economy, was ripe for exploitation. Factories were closing, unemployment was rampant, and law enforcement was underfunded. The Angels moved in, offering protection to local businesses while running drugs and weapons through the city's underbelly. Rival gangs were either absorbed or eliminated. The Angels' presence brought fear, but also a twisted sense of order as they enforced their own rules. Riverton became a microcosm of their global empire, showcasing their ability to infiltrate and dominate vulnerable communities with chilling precision. The takeover begins. Riverton in the 1980s was a city on its knees, ripe for the picking. High unemployment from shuttered factories, corrupt local officials, and an underfunded, overwhelmed police force created a power vacuum. The Hells Angels, with their keen nose for opportunity, descended on the city. They started small, establishing a clubhouse in a gritty neighborhood on the edge of town. Locals soon noticed the roar of motorcycles, the raucous parties, and the intimidating men in leather vests emblazoned with the Angels' winged skull logo. The presence of the Angels sent a clear message: trouble had arrived. The Angels wasted no time muscling into Riverton's economy. Bar owners, small-time drug dealers, and even legitimate shopkeepers were coerced into paying protection fees. Refusal wasn't an option. Those who resisted faced swift retribution: smashed windows, torched businesses, or worse. One local, who we'll call Mike, shared his story anonymously. They came into my bar one night, maybe 10 of them. The leader, a guy with a scarred face, said, "You're gonna pay us $500 a month, or this place burns." I paid, everyone did. Fear cemented the Angels' grip as compliance became survival. Beyond extortion, the Angels seized control of Riverton's drug trade. Methamphetamine, cocaine, and marijuana flowed through their tightly controlled network, turning the city into a regional hub. Drugs arrived in bulk, were distributed by low-level members, and sold on the streets under the Angels' watchful eyes. Their secret to success lay in a hierarchical structure that rivaled any Fortune 500 company. At the top, chapter presidents wielded absolute authority, strategizing expansion and alliances. Below them, enforcers meted out violence to maintain order, while prospects and hang-arounds handled the grunt work, dealing drugs, running errands, or eliminating rivals. This disciplined chain of command allowed the Angels to operate with chilling efficiency, outmaneuvering law enforcement and rival gangs alike. Riverton, once a struggling industrial town, had become a stronghold in the Hells Angels' sprawling criminal empire. Violence and rivalries. The Hells Angels didn't just dominate Riverton. They obliterated any challenge to their rule with unrelenting violence. Rival gangs, like the Outlaws and Mongols, ignited bloody turf wars that defined the Angels' brutal reputation. A notorious 1973 incident set the stage for decades of carnage. On New Year's Eve in New York, 3 outlaws crashed a Hells Angels party. Tensions erupted, and the outlaws were savagely beaten. In retaliation, the outlaws executed 3 angels, igniting a nationwide biker war that continues to simmer, with body counts rising on both sides. In Riverton, the Angels faced resistance from a local gang, the Iron Skulls, who dared to contest their control of the drug trade. The Skulls' defiance was short-lived. In 1985, a meticulously planned shootout at a Riverton dive bar left 4 Skulls dead, their bodies sprawled across the blood-soaked floor. Witnesses whispered that the Angels orchestrated the ambush, but fear silenced any testimony. The massacre cemented the Angels' dominance, sending a clear message: resistance was suicide. The Angels' violence wasn't reserved for rivals. Innocent bystanders often paid the price. In 2001, the brutal murder of Cynthia Garcia, a mother in Arizona, shocked the nation. After allegedly back-talking an angel, she was beaten, stabbed, and dumped in the desert. Riverton residents saw chilling parallels, whispering about similar unreported incidents: bar patrons roughed up, shopkeepers terrorized, or locals vanishing after crossing the Angels. The club's reign of terror ensured compliance, as their willingness to target anyone, rival or civilian, made Riverton a city under siege, gripped by fear of the Angels' wrath. Law enforcement strikes back. By the 1990s, Riverton's police were outmatched, unable to curb the Hells Angels' stranglehold on the city. The FBI and ATF intervened, launching aggressive operations to dismantle the club's criminal empire. One of the boldest was Operation Black Biscuit, spearheaded by ATF agent Jay Dobbins from 2001 to 2003. Dobbins, a seasoned undercover operative, described the mission as harrowing. "I went undercover to become a Hells Angel. It was the hardest thing I've ever done. You're living a lie, surrounded by paranoia and violence." Dobbins, alongside his partner Jenna McGuire, who posed as his old lady, infiltrated the Angels' inner circle. To gain their trust, they staged a fake murder, using butcher shop props, pig blood, and animal parts, to simulate a rival's execution. The grisly ruse worked, earning Dobbins credibility and bringing him tantalizingly close to becoming a fully patched member. But the psychological toll was crushing. Constant fear of exposure, coupled with the Angels' volatile mix of loyalty and suspicion, pushed Dobbins to the brink. Operation Black Biscuit yielded results, with dozens of arrests across multiple states, including Riverton, where raids disrupted the Angels' drug and extortion rackets. Yet, the Angels proved resilient. They sniffed out infiltrators, tightened internal security, and employed savvy legal tactics to evade convictions. In Riverton, busts temporarily hampered their operations, but the Angels always regrouped, leveraging their hierarchical structure and deep community roots. New members filled the ranks, and their criminal enterprises, drugs, weapons, and intimidation resurged. Operation Black Biscuit exposed the Angels' vulnerabilities, but underscored their adaptability, leaving Riverton's battle against their influence far from won. The cost of power. The allure of being a Hells Angel, freedom, brotherhood, and life on the open road, seems glamorous, but it's a dangerous illusion. Loyalty to the club supersedes everything: family, morals, even personal survival. Members are bound by an ironclad code where betrayal means death and obedience is absolute. In Riverton, this toxic devotion fueled the Angels' reign, leaving a trail of devastation. Families were fractured as members prioritized the club, businesses crumbled under extortion, and entire neighborhoods lived in dread of the Angels' wrath. Former chapter. Presidents like Charles Pee Wee Goldsmith and Pat Matter have exposed the club's grim reality, detailing how the promise of brotherhood masked manipulation and violence. A Riverton community leader, speaking anonymously, captured the city's plight. The Angels made Riverton feel like a war zone. People were scared to speak up. But we're fighting to take our city back. Their words reflect a community battered but resilient, determined to reclaim its identity. Today, Riverton is slowly rebuilding. Law enforcement, bolstered by federal task forces, continues its relentless pursuit of the Angels, though the club's global reach, spanning over 60 countries, remains formidable. The Hells Angels saga in Riverton is a stark cautionary tale of unchecked power, corrupting even the most defiant ideals. Were they outlaws chasing freedom, or criminals exploiting a vulnerable city? The answer lies in the scars they left behind. Share your thoughts in the comments below. If this deep dive into Riverton's dark chapter resonated, give us a thumbs up, subscribe, and explore our Real Crime Chronicles playlist for more gripping stories. Stay curious and stay safe.